All this week on Transforming the World, we've been looking at the topic of discretion. A Christian, this is some of the things we talked about this week. A Christian who is truly a disciple of Jesus shows discretion in the way they interact with others. They show discretion in the words they speak and the way that they live. We also talked about discretion in the choices that we make. In other words, the way that we dress or what we wear. But question number 15, I want to finish out the week here and look at that. Question number 15 asks this: do I use the rule, when in doubt, don't? So let's look at that side of discretion today in just a moment. My name is Pastor Greg, and this is Transforming the World. I want to take us back to Romans 14, simply because Romans 14, like I said, you should read that whole chapter. The whole idea, the whole concept of discretion is spelled out so very clearly by the Apostle Paul in this letter to the church in Rome. But I want to go back to Romans 14 toward the end of that chapter and look at a few verses. Although, let's just summarize what Paul has already stated here about discretion. Remember we talked about this. Paul says it's better not to eat meat or drink wine or do anything else if it might cause another believer to stumble. Verse 22, he says, you might believe that there's nothing wrong with you or doing, but keep it between yourself and God. Blessed are those who don't feel guilty for doing something they have decided is right. But then he goes on to address the other side of the issue. And it's the other side, the end of this chapter, basically, that answers the question that we saw there in number 15 in the self-evaluation section. In verse 23, Paul says this: if you have doubts about whether or not you should eat something, you are sinning if you go ahead and do it, for you're not following your convictions. If you do anything you believe is not right, you are sinning. Those words there are just magnificent. Paul's words here are just so magnificent. He's like, stop and think for a moment. If you go and do something and in your heart you know it's wrong, but you do it anyway, that's a sin. And so the lesson there is follow your convictions. Show some discretion. Don't be dragged along by the crowd. Don't let others talk you into doing something that you know is wrong. Show some discretion in all of these things. The end of Romans 14 should be our standard when making judgments or decisions in this world. When in doubt, don't. And a wise believer is actually going to turn, the wise believer probably should turn to a more mature believer and even ask their opinion. What do you think? This has happened to me a lot of times in my life. You know, a younger believer will come along as they're struggling with a choice or trying to make a decision in life. And say, what do you think? What do you think? And we walk through this process. So what is the Holy Spirit telling you? I mean, that's part of the role of the Holy Spirit there, right? Is to convict you. The Holy Spirit is there to walk with you, to walk beside you, to walk behind you, and guide you through life so you make the kind of choices. And when you're starting to make a choice that'll lead you away from God, that will lead you to sin, the Holy Spirit's right there and says, look, don't. And so it's the mature Christian who responds to that, who shows a little discernment and follows what the Holy Spirit is saying. As a believer in Jesus, as a disciple, I want to challenge you to continue to practice some discretion in all that you say and in all that you do. Because other people are watching. Other people are watching. And I also want to encourage you to show some discretion because the Lord is watching as well. As I said, He is there with you. He is beside you. He's behind you. He is there to guide you through life. And if a choice or a decision that you are about to make will lead you off the path, trust me, the Lord is there to guide you. Listen to him and show discretion. When in doubt, don't. And trust me, if you'll just listen to the Holy Spirit, he will shout loud and clear and say, don't. Next week, we're going to be taking a look at the attribute of joy. That ought to be a lot of fun. You think we can get through a topic of joy without telling any jokes? I don't know. Well, I hope you can join me on Monday as we continue to explore what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. This is Transforming the World, and my name is Pastor Greg.